Hello folks, welcome back to Reality Check with Arvind Swaminathan. Interesting time we live in. First, let's have a look at what people have been doing. We'll discuss two things. One is this Ram Mandir and then a little bit about the budget. Now, we've had various programs on TV, debates and so on. And you get some of these people saying, no law has been brought in based on religion. What kind of nonsense is that? Ever since Nehru became Prime Minister, totally against any form of democracy, which we now know, what happened? He was empowered to bring in a uniform civil code, so he brought in a Hindu civil code. Why? Muslims sit on top of everybody else and Christians? And the 80% of Hindus who dominate this country, they get kicked around by the minority. Why? Then he brought in 1954, he recognized the Waqf Board as a separate entity. Now, it means something very deep, which most people don't understand. Every state has two Waqf boards, Shia and Sunni. All their expenses are paid for by you and I, the taxpayer. Why? I'm pretty certain my taxes were not intended for that. So why? It is also said in the Constitution, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the state and religion must be kept separate. So why is the government paying Waqf Board expenses, both Shia and Sunni in every state? They then gave them more powers in 1965 or 64, even more powers in 84, and in 1995, Narasimha Rao, that really must take the cake. The Waqf Act 1995. Every square inch of land was given over to the Waqf Board. They don't need to produce any proof, nothing according to that act. They just say, this is Waqf Board. And you and I cannot dispute it in any court of law. Not in the district court, not in the high courts in the state, nor in the Supreme Court in the center. The only place you can state your case is the Waqf Tribunal, which is a 7-member tribunal, all Muslims. Everyone is a Muslim. And they go according to Muslim law, which means that Sharia law or Muslim law overrides and overrules the Indian Penal Code, the present day, the modern laws. It overrides the Constitution, it overrides the President or the Prime Minister or Parliament. It makes Sharia law and the Waqf Tribunal supreme legal entity. You think of that. And you say no law was ever made based on religion? Now you understand why I said the Congress party from Nehru to this day is hell-bent on turning India into an Islamic country. And I resent that. I'm sorry, I do. I'm not a Muslim and I don't want to become one, thank you very much. Now, quite apart from all this, what else do we have? All these freebies. Why? Whose money is it? Your money and my money. Taxpayer money. You see, this particular Congress ethos, shall we say, for want of a better word, they don't seem to like Hindus at all. They seem to think that we, Hindus, are here just to be kicked, stomped on, fleeced and looted. Now the British came to India and then they came out with this statement that the Mughals taught us architecture. Why? Who said so? Hadn't they been to the south and seen the temples there? Well, of course in northern India there weren't any temples. Because every time the Mughals came or any Muslim raider came, any temple he looted, pillaged and plundered and then demolished. And wherever possible he stuck a mosque there. The Ram Mandir or Ram Temple, classic example. Gyanvapi Temple in Banaras or Varanasi, same thing. You look at the Krishna Janmabhoomi or the Idgah Mosque in Mathura, same thing. All over northern India, you won't find many temples. Or if there are, they're very small ones. Why? The big attempt that was made, beginning with the first Muslim raiders who came, to wipe Hinduism from our memories completely. And Nehru left no stone unturned to begin that process, or continue it rather. I said before, Nehru never considered India as a nation which wanted or could be a free, independent nation. As far as he was concerned, India was his colony once the British had been ousted. And you have a look today, even today, the same policies, same Congress policies. Nothing must be made here. It must all be brought in from outside, which is exactly what the British did. All industries were destroyed in India. Our own cotton textiles had to come from Lancashire. Nobody could afford our textiles. Why? Taxation. The railways they gave us, they didn't. We paid for them at exorbitant rates. And they weren't meant to benefit us. And what did the Congress Party do in 67 years of misrule? Nothing. Still the same old locomotives, still the same old types. And what has this government done? Have a look at the Vande Bharat trains. There's something else out of this world relative to what we had before. You think of the comfort level, the ease of travel, the speed at which they travel. Now, all this is leading to something, yes. The Ram Temple consecration ceremony has brought Hindus together in a way not seen since the independence movement. And I'm glad in many ways. Why? They've finally woken up. Hindus are not going to be supine victims anymore. They're going to assert themselves too. I hope they do. Too long have they been going outside and looking apologetic. Too long have they been mentioning the fact in undertones that they are Hindu, almost apologetically, I'm sorry, we're Hindu. Why should we feel ashamed of being Hindu? I'm not. And it's about time all the others understood that, look, we're people too. And we pay the major chunk of all the taxes that are collected in this country. And we have every right to assert ourselves. We have understood our responsibilities. Why doesn't somebody teach Muslims the same thing about child production or baby production? They seem to think that's all they're there for. I beg to differ. And all those mullahs and maulvis and so on who keep telling them to go on producing children, send them out. Now, even Europe, so-called very liberal area, have begun to wake up. The Netherlands are beginning to tell them, look, you're here because we allow you to come here. Mess about with our laws and our legal system, get out. You will be deported. You don't belong here. Like Italy, they're also beginning to break down all mosques. France is doing the same thing. Norway and Denmark are just deporting them. Why? Most of the crimes and criminal gangs are among them. Now, why are we being made to suffer? A lot of these so-called, call them refugees if you wish, or the exodus of these Muslims from the Middle East. Why do they not go to Muslim countries? Well, very simple. They won't accept them there. They don't want these people in Muslim countries. They go to Western Europe. with this attitude. You won't let us live in our country, which is true, so they won't let Europeans live in their countries. Yes, but why do they come here and do that to us? What have we done? Now again, all this is leading up to something else. The second part, a few words about our budget. For the first time, this particular government under Modi, the BJP government, has brought Hindus together thanks to this Ram Mandir or Ram Temple. They're beginning to wake up and they're beginning to understand that, look, we pay so much of the taxes. There's a huge proportion of those taxes. Why are we being penalized? Now, this particular budget, I didn't expect anything. Why? It had to be an interim budget only because there is a general election due in a couple of months. And yet, note one thing. No freebies. They have not gone for populist items in this budget. No freebies. They have gone for development. For the first time, a government has presented a case of what we expect to be in 2047. No Congress government ever had that vision, to even look halfway there, to get up to that point. We're already the fifth largest economy in the world. We may already be fourth, I don't know. And yet, the central government has not provided so many freebies, as every Congress government has tried to do wherever they have contested an election. Now it worked in Karnataka, but it didn't all over Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, UP. Why? Because the electorate there has begun to wake up and understand, look, Congress means everything being held back. Unemployment, nothing made here. Everything has to be made abroad. They collect commissions. Huge commissions. Isn't that what the British used to do? Now, I said this in a paper I wrote in 1970, that the present government is doing exactly what the British did, only reinforcing it even further, so that it never comes out of us. And that colonial attitude and that slave mentality in us, Modi ji is trying very hard to remove it. It's taking time, and fortunately, he has a large group of youngsters. Now, we are a young nation, yes, but this new crop of young people are being targeted, and they're beginning to understand exactly what they should be doing, how they should think, how they should conduct themselves, which is what Hinduism is. Let's be quite honest. You get Congress and all these opposition people, they keep coming out with, oh, it's against this or against that group or against this group. Well, damn it, no budget can ever please everybody. You can't. If you had any common sense, you would understand this. Let's look at it this way. If there is a 1% reduction in income tax rates, a man who pays only 5,000 income tax only benefits to the tune of about 50 rupees. Whereas the guy who pays 50 lakhs, he benefits to the tune of 5 lakhs. Yes, there is disparity. But you think of how much that top-end person has invested, what his income is, and how much of the cake he is paying for. In the same way, if the tax rate goes up 1%, the man paying 5,000 only has to pay an extra 50 rupees. The guy at the top end has to pay another 5 or 6 lakhs. And yet, why do you scream and loud and abuse the guy at the top end. He's the one who is doing the investing, putting up plants, providing employment so that the rest of us can live. Where would we be without him? Forget the government. The government, as George Bush Sr. said, can't even run a post office properly. Which is true. I mean, under the Congress government, just about every public enterprise was making losses. There's no way, simply because the government attitude pervaded everything. It went through every department, every section. And when that happens, you're not getting anywhere. But be warned that this government is a no-nonsense type. It is there to help us to develop and get better and better. I don't need to go into full details, but a few broad things. I mean, you see what he's done with the railways. See your Vande Bharat trains. How many of them are there? The All India Institute of Medical Sciences. 67 years of Congress rule. A total of, I think, 7. How many are there today in 10 years under BJP? 25. Give them another 10 years, it will go up to 50. The health of the nation is important to this government. It never was to the Congress governments. The Congress only thought of itself. And it's still doing exactly that. Now, what about defense production? We were massive importers of all sorts of defense equipment, even handguns. There was no thought of R&D. We had a Defense Research and Development Organization, or DRDO, which used to sit there and twiddle its thumbs. Why? Because the Congress government told it to sit there and do nothing. All these missile systems, defense systems would be imported, and they would collect massive commissions. The Congress government, even the head of Congress government, was involved in one of these a long time ago. I think he may actually have been Prime Minister, I'm not sure. So you see, wherever there is corruption, you will find these opposition people. The India Alliance, for instance. What are they fighting for? They're really fighting for the right to continue looting this country. They're not there to do anything for this country. What has the TMC government done for West Bengal? Industry won't go there. Tatas wanted to go there and she drove them out. So where? What are they doing? You see, Karnataka, all these freebies cost so much that there is no money left over for development. Perhaps that is why this government, even though there's a general election coming up, they could easily have gone in for freebies just to get re-elected, but they said no. They're thinking of the nation first and themselves afterwards. And I think we should understand this, that this is the first government that has thought of the nation first rather than themselves. If you look at the entire Congress leadership, over the decades, they have become absolutely rich. How do they do it? Never by honest means. You cannot be. Not to that extent. They are, to use the comic phrase, filthy rich. And a lot of that money is abroad to develop other countries, not our country. Need I say more on that topic? So you see, this particular budget still continues to look forward. True, possibly another normal budget will come later. But wait for the election. At the same time, nothing in this budget, being an interim budget, smacks of any populism, which is a big plus. Otherwise, as somebody sent a cartoon, a rat inside a cage. Now he can't get out of there, and the rat represents the electorate, the voter. He's taken the bait to get in there, the piece of cheese or bread or whatever, but he can't get out of there. It's the opposition party trying to tell you, I am corrupt, here, I'll buy your vote, so now you're corrupt as well. Do we need to spread corruption? No. So please do not accept that bait. And if somebody offers you that bait, tell him to go jump in the lake. And hope he doesn't know how to swim. Because that's what should be done to such people. Corrupting agencies are things we do not require. Please. And that's all we've been seeing, certainly for the last 60 odd years. Now we have a chance to go forward. Hold our heads up. Hindus, the vast majority of the people we're catering for, please try and understand. You cannot allow corruption to spread. If you find it, fight it. Don't stomp on decent people, stomp on corruption and corrupt people. They deserve it. Please, folks, try and understand. 3 temples coming back and Muslims keep screaming. Why? It was all right for them to break those temples, demolish them and stick mosques on top. But it's not all right for Hindus to reclaim that land and bring back their own temples. Hindus in their own land, it seems, don't have a right to have their own temple to offer their own prayers. Why? Is this what is secularism? I mean, do we need this sort of stupidity? So let's wake up. Now even this temple, you get some so-called opposition members who say it doesn't provide jobs. Who said so? You think of the number of pilgrims who come to offer prayers, the donations, to set up facilities, air travel, rail travel, road travel, hotels, hospitality business. It's not far from the hills. You get a hill station coming up. You think of the add-ons that go in just with that one temple. Now I know I was near there, not far away, as a youngster. I'm talking about when I was 8-10 years old. But I never knew about it. Because I never knew anything about the Ramayana. My uncle lived about 20 miles from there. I spent 2 months there once. But I never went there because I didn't know its significance. In any case, during those times, I'm talking about the 1940s and early 50s, there's no temple there. So why would I have gone there anyway? Now you see, this is Nehru's plan, to wipe all this out from our memories. So all we know is the Mughals and the British. That was all the history I learnt in school. Mughals and what was it? Tudors and Stuarts, the British history. I studied that history in Lucknow, in Bombay, or Mumbai as it is today, in Dehradun. No wonder when I got to London, people wondered, how the hell did this kid know more about our history than our own kids? Yes, this happened. I studied the same bit of history in 4 different places. now you've got the DMK people who are telling us that Sanatan Dharma or Hinduism is something that should be wiped out. Why? Because as happened in the Middle East, Islam took over because there was nothing else. At that particular moment in time, Christianity hadn't arrived fully there, and Judaism had been thrown out. So Islam took over. You're doing the same thing here. Wipe Hinduism out from our memories. Replace Sanatan Dharma. When there's nothing left, Islam takes over or Christianity takes over. Why? Why are we being subjected to this form of torture? Don't they have anything better to do? What is wrong with me or you professing and practicing our own religions? We don't stop Muslims or Christians from praying in their own way. So why should we be subjected to all this rubbish? And remember, we're 80% of the population. So why are we being penalized? Or is this a classic example of what happened in Iran a couple of millennia ago, or maybe 1,000 years ago? A Parsi country allowed in a few Muslims. In 30 years, there were no Parsis left there, and it was now, and since then it's been an Islamic nation. Is that what you're trying here? Why? If you do remember, there won't be a budget anymore. 80% of people won't be paying taxes anymore, simply because there's no schools, there's no nothing. All they will be studying is the Quran or the Bible. What will they do with that? Why were Muslims backward in the first place? Because they were told, study only the Quran, that's all you need. They refused to pick up any way of doing it, earning a living. They had no idea what to do and how to do it. They never learned any. Fortunately, now they're learning. There are all sorts of trades, whether it's carpentry work, welding, working with metals, blacksmithies, you name it. But they are beginning to learn. And once they do, we don't need reservations. And it's about time people understood that these reservations are what's holding us back. And why do we need British policies back in our country today? Why must we be held back? Please try and understand we need to go forward, not backwards. For heaven's sake, let's go forward. The opposition parties will not allow that, because they're simply there to loot, no other reason. This present government has taken big steps towards freeing our economy, freeing our minds and our hearts, and coming together and working as a nation, rather than groups of people all over the place who do nothing except fight each other. Instead of fighting one another here, fight the outside world for our rights. And we need that badly. Thanks, folks. Take care. Be good. Like, subscribe, send it on to your friends and groups. See you next time.